Hello, and welcome to the God Theory podcast. What's up, David? How you been, Mang?
Hey, Jeremiah, still living the heathen life. Still eating
Ah,
babies. Still eating gluten-free babies.
gluten-free babies. They sell those separately. That's the problem. You gotta sift through all the normal babies to get to down to the gluten-free ones that are at the bottom.
Yeah, otherwise it's unhealthy. Gluten means things that are bad for you, so clearly.
Toxins, that's the word. I hate the word toxins. I've used it because it's medically you can say that term and it means something, but it means something totally different to other people. It's almost like whenever I say, like, does that make you anxious? And people are like, no. And I'm like, wait, do you know what anxious means? And they're like, no. And I'm like, it's like an urge to do something. It's not necessarily like nervousness, but it's like a disquiet where you need to do something.
It's
like,
then or a dissonance that you have to like fix something.
Yeah. I was talking to someone, a client at one point, where I said, well, I'm picking up a little avoidance. No. You're not. You don't feel that you're avoidant at all of.
No, I just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, she was like, no, and I was like, and this person was a rape victim, and I was also like, you're not at all avoidant of that. And she's like, no, and I was like, you got PTSD. I think you are. But anyway, the point is that I think people don't understand the clinical terms, and so same thing here, toxin. Anyway, what is up? I didn't know what to name the episode, man. It's episode 23.
We'll see what we talk about. This is more of the organic podcast where we just talk and then we name it after.
Yeah. And last week we didn't put one out, right? No, we did.
No, we did.
Jared,
we didn't do a game theory, but we put we did our interview with Jared.
Now this is already starting off like a shitstorm, so might as well jump right into it. Well, cool. I want to talk about the statistical thing that I thought was pretty cool, demographics. This is what's so crazy to me, is that this didn't cause controversy. Like, anytime I put up a religious article or something, I can pretty much guarantee some people are going to get angry on my Facebook, because I've got a lot of conservative family members, got a lot of liberal family members, and there's usually flame wars in between. And so this one in particular was from the Pew Research Center. And it was just about religion. It was just a good cross-sectional look at like how religion is now,
which religions are growing, which ones are shrinking, who's leaving which religions to go to which other religions.
Yeah, and how people change over time, how things have been changing. Because I don't know if you've heard these claims of like people like, oh, we're the fastest growing church. I think every church has said that at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mormons have been saying that for years. Jehovah's Witnesses, I think Seventh-day Adventists are actually the fastest growing Christian denomination. But yeah, everybody brings it up.
Yeah, it's weird. And then you also get people like, I don't know if you've they said this is why Christianity is the fastest growing religion in the world. Like, I don't know, all these crazy claims, but it was nice to have someone finally be like, oh, hey, we got some data on that. It's the Pew folks, the people who generally do a lot of statistical data like that.
And it really depends on how you define fastest growing, right? Because if you're looking at percentages versus raw numbers, like the Liamism, those of us who believe that Liam Neeson is our Lord and Savior, we have quadrupled in size since last week. So in a way, we are the fastest growing religion. Carpe Liam.
Seize the Liam. Yes. Does Liam Neeson know about this?
I think that in his heart he does. He doesn't want to make a big deal out of it. Like, he's not one of those gods who get kind of pissy if you don't worship him overtly. So he just doesn't want to like I was talking to fellow Gray Shepherd and co-prophet of the Church of Liam, Chris, and he was talking about how some people put God as like their number one thing in their lives. God's the most important thing. And Chris said something that was profound. He said, Liam Neeson is my Lord and Savior, but he's not even in my top 5 most important things in my life. And I think he would be weirded out if he were.
See, it's those kind of like gods that like got just evolved out of favor because of the pushier gods.
Yeah, these like more needy gods, these needy girlfriends. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's rule number 1. Also, I am the Lord thy God. That's also a rule. No graven images. Like 4 out of 10 of the commandments are about like stop looking at other gods. Like, why do you
don't even say my name unless you say it with reverence?
Say it in a shitty attitude. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you get fucked. This is a commandment. There's only 10 of them.
Yeah. Liam isn't that way. He'd be weirded out if he knew that there was a church about him. Probably he'd be like, "Guys, settle down." And we're like, "It's okay, Liam. We know that you secretly want to be worshipped."
Yeah. And even if he doesn't, you're gonna get worshipped anyway. We're pushing our worship on you. Yeah, he doesn't ask much though, which I think is nice.
Yeah, just be cool. Don't be a dick.
They doesn't have a Bible. It's just a pamphlet.
Yeah, it's
like, have you heard of the Church of Liam? You knock at someone's door and they're like, "Oh no, what's this? A pamphlet?" And I'm like, "No, this is the entire Bible." Let me just give it to them. Just don't be a dick. Be nice. That would be pretty awesome. That's basically what Bernie Sanders is coming. Dude, did you hear about Bernie Sanders? Got to get this out of the way real quick. Yes, I'm a fanboy. I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this. He's within 7 points on the 7? 7, yes. With Hillary Clinton now in Iowa. I'm going to go double check that. But people are starting to put out reports now, and they're like, this maybe could happen, except for the minority vote, which I don't understand why he's not getting that. Not that he doesn't.
Like an old white man. What's not to like?
Oh, I know, but look at this guy. He's been talking about racial equality since like the 50s.
I think even knowing who Bernie Sanders is sort of a privileged position. Like he's not getting the media saturation that other politicians get. So in order to even be aware of him, you kind of have to spend some time on Facebook or on the internet, which sort of self-selects your fan base, right? Like not everyone can afford to follow Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. You're probably right about the older voting age, but what about public schools? Surely you can, people, look at YouTube and stuff on there, right? Like at school?
They're not supposed to, but I guess some people do.
No, they're not supposed to.
Yeah, my exactly. The kids who have smartphones in class are the ones who are rich white kids for the most part, at least in the schools I've taught at. So it's just being any kind of social activist is a privileged position in society because you have that kind of leisure time to devote to it.
That is a weird position then, because he's going to be the person who champions their cause the most. It's like whenever the Black Lives Matter interrupted his thing, and I've heard both sides on that. Actually, what do you think about that? I don't know if you heard about this. During one of his rallies, there was two prominent females who stood up and said they started kind of shouting him down. They were like, "Oh, give us the mic, give us the mic," and it was kind of a bullying technique. But I don't want to judge one way or the other. And then he ended up saying, "Okay, you can have it after I do my thing. You guys can talk." And they're like, "No, dude, let us have it now." And there was a lot of shouting and stuff, but you can watch the video. And eventually he says, "All right," so he lets them talk and backs up. People were lamenting about that because they were like, "Dude, of all the candidates, even Ben Carson wouldn't fight for you as much, and he's an African American as well." So
yeah, I mean, just because someone has your self-interest in mind, like there's a lot of women who are going to vote for Trump, and he's going to treat them like shit. Like, people don't always know what their best options are.
Yeah, I guess so.
I didn't know who Bernie Sanders was until a few months ago, and I'm on the internet a lot. So I feel like it's just a question of saturation, and you're going to get the people who have more leisure time to even research you first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that black people are like, "Oh, I don't like Bernie Sanders." I just don't think they're really aware of his position yet, or at least that might be why he's not leading the polls for them.
Oh man, that's too bad. Well, hopefully, whenever he gives his speeches and things, he will be, because this guy, man, even hired one of the people from the, if I recall, hired the people from the Black Lives Matter thing. He's like, "Hey," and he just said in his most recent Democratic National Convention speech, he talked about the importance of the fact that so many of the African American percentage population is in jail. They don't finish high school. Like they're systematically getting screwed.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely like the person you should vote for if you had all the facts. But to answer your question of why do you think people aren't, I don't think it's a question of willful rebellion. I think it's more of just a question of not knowing about him.
Huh. That's weird. That's too bad too. Oh well. Hopefully that'll change. I'm hoping he gets the. Apparently, Obama, I guess, won in 2008 by Hillary won the vote amongst Caucasians, but Obama kind of cut that gap in and ended up winning the popular vote because of the minorities. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of hoping Bernie Sanders does that, because Obama's on the same trail as Hillary was before in 2008. Or Obama's in the same trail that Bernie Sanders was against Hillary, and the same thing seems to be happening again. A couple of people are writing in articles. They're like, "Is this 2008 over again?" Where Obama was this guy that was nowhere, and they were like, "What do you think about Barack Obama?" And she's like, "Well, Barack Hussein Obama. I don't think America's ready for that. We're literally fighting a guy with almost the same name. We're trying to fight him, and then we just fought another guy."
I'm no campaign manager, but if you are trying to be the first woman president, maybe I don't think America's ready for that. Should probably stay out of your vocabulary when you're giving interviews. Like, I don't think America's very progressive for these strange changes, like a colored man.
A colored man, yeah. Yeah, she probably says something like that. And the thing, one of her, I don't know if you know this, but her most popular viral video back in April or so, her most popular trending video was an apology. I was like, "Hey, you may not like Hillary Clinton, but here, what else you got?" And it talked about a couple of the other people. And it's no secret that her campaign push has been from the beginning. She's like, "I need a runway. I need to be able to just go and no one gets in my way and I can just take off, because for some reason America just does not care for her.
She's very off-putting as a person. Like, I don't know about her policies, but charismatically, she just couldn't hold a candle to Obama's like way of delivering speeches, his presence. Like, she just does not have the same TV presence.
Yeah, maybe that's it. It's kind of this gut feeling thing that a lot of people make decisions off of. Because I'm also not a fan, and I don't know why. Some of her policies, I don't like the flip-flopping weirdness, how she was against gay marriage and now she's for it. Like, just a few years later.
There's also a sort of Republican Democratic pushback against any feeling of dynasties. Like, we've had so many Bushes, and now we're doing Clintons again. Is this really where we want to be as a country, where it's just a Bush-Clinton back and forth?
Yeah. Although Clinton apparently did quite a bit of good stuff, but
sure. But I mean, it just feels like a monarchy when we start keeping it in the family, and it's just intrinsically almost un-American, even though it's not a logical problem. It just doesn't feel like what we self-identify as a country.
Yeah, that's a good point. And plus, I just think Bernie Sanders is a better candidate, but whatever. Either way, dude, the guy's won a bunch of bipartisan stuff. He's passed a lot of bipartisan legislation just because he's an independent, or that's what he's filed under. And people are like, oh, yeah, okay, I can get behind that. And it's a lot of like pipe cleaning. It's just like getting the shit out of Congress. Like, hey, how about we limit the amount that people can, donate to a campaign or something like that? It's little amendments here and there. But whatever, enough Bernie Sanders talk. I was just really excited about that.
Yes. So you had some statistics you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Mostly about, tell me if this starts to get boring, but
what?
No, he's done.
He's already asleep.
And this is something I thought that maybe would not be that controversial, but it came out just at 10 facts about religion. I was like, oh, I got to see this. And then I saw those statistics and I got giddy. But overall, and I'm going to put this article up on the webpage. Here's some of the facts. So the first one, Protestants no longer make up a majority of U.S. adults. So that's fallen. That used to be the highest, which...
What's the percentage now?
Looks like the more than half of U.S. adults identified as Protestants in 2007, 51.3. But now, in 2014, so 7 years later, it's 46.5 Americans are now Protestants. So Protestants. Apparently, I had a different understanding of what this meant. I thought it was just non-Catholics.
Right.
Is that not the case?
If you look at the history of the church, it was Catholicism and then minor heretical branches that tended to die off pretty fast. And then there was the Protestant Reformation. It's where we got a lot of these, Methodists, Lutherans came out of that. Now, it's weird because some Protestant sects will not self-identify as Protestant. Like the Baptists, a lot of Baptists will say we're not Protestant because they're saying that they were never part of the Catholic Church, therefore they're not protesting something. But when you look at their history, a lot of historians trace Baptists to this guy named John Smythe, who was protesting infant baptism, which was, guess what? A Catholic practice that he was breaking away from. So it's really hard historically not to be a Protestant. I mean, Mormons will do the same thing, right? They'll say, we're not Protestants. We are the original church reformed. Like, it's just a reformation of the original church, and the Catholics were an apostasy group. But when you look at the historical context, they broke away from a religious foundation that was Catholic. Catholic was the universal church. That's why it was called the Catholic Church. So any church that kind of comes from that root, even if they don't self-identify as Protestant, is, for the purposes of the Pew Survey at least, classified under that Protestant umbrella.
Yeah, that's how I would classify it as well. Even when I was a Baptist, I classified myself as a Protestant. You didn't as a Mormon, though, you said?
Mormons don't, but they technically are when you look at, their founder was a kid who was coming out of a Methodist background. He was like, oh, this isn't true. Like, that's all it is like you're breaking away from the common faith. And for some reason, we decided the Protestant Reformation is that moment when, from Catholics into all these other churches, because there weren't other competing religions before that were successful, at least among Christians.
Huh. Well, okay, so the next one I found the most interesting. Okay, and you'll have to tell me what you guess this is first, because I can't tell you now, I'm spoiled. But religious switching, have you heard of, basically switching from one religion to another? How common do you think that is?
Well, just anecdotally, I'd say pretty common. Like maybe a third, maybe half of people will change their religions in their lives. Like I know a lot of people who were raised evangelical who became Anglican, or who were raised Catholic, Protestant who became Catholic, who even some Mormons who left Mormonism to go into, Unitarianism or Methodist or something. So I don't know, maybe like a third.
Oh yeah, it's 42%, but it's a third if you talk about. Well, yeah, that's getting a little technical, but 42%. Yeah, man, I thought it was going to be like 10. I just figured people,
people tend to shop around. Like they get out of their 20s, they leave their parents' church, but they're not ready to leave God behind altogether, and so they just find a church that kind of fits them better.
Huh? And I wonder if they, in general, move to more moderate churches or positions, or if it's like, is it lateral? Does it just move sideways, or is it like, do they go even more hardcore?
Yeah,
I feel like I could come up with a theory for any of those.
Yeah, I would assume they tend to go less hardcore just because that's the way demographics work. Like the younger you are, the less likely you are to be a fundamentalist. But I don't know what the data is.
Huh. Well, and then what do you think is the most diverse group? So I'll give you a list. This would not have guessed this either. So racial and ethnic diversity. Which one do you think is the most? So we got evangelical Protestant, unaffiliated, Catholic, mainline Protestant, non-Christian faith, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus. Oh, probably, and Seventh-day Adventists and Jehovah's Witnesses. And
geez. Okay, I was gonna say unaffiliated, but I think Jehovah's Witnesses are probably the most diverse. Like you see a lot of minorities, like going door to door, or a lot of like, like a black woman and a white guy, or just like I don't know. Maybe this is just my perception. Like even on the show Community, like the one of the black characters is the token Jehovah's Witness, and there like you just see a lot of diversity among their PR. So I don't know if that translates to reality or not.
Really? Why do you think that is? Is there something about the doctrine?
I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's so fringe that like it's less about like your culture. Like most people who are Jehovah's Witnesses are converts. Like you don't, or I don't know. That might be something I'm saying without any data to back it up. But I feel like it's a heavily proselytizing religion, so they're going to get a lot of people who weren't like raised in the faith.
Yeah. And
unlike Mormons, you have this history of racism where you like, we get a lot of converts, but also until late 70s, we're like, no blacks though, thanks. So, like, I think if you take that away and just say, hey, we're a weird fringe minority, we'll take anybody, like you're going to get a more diverse player base.
Huh, okay. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's actually accurate. It's Seventh-day Adventists, Muslims, and Jehovah's Witnesses. Muslims make sense.
Yeah, but Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists, you say?
Yeah, Seventh-day Adventists.
And that kind of fits too because they're another kind of weird minority, heavy proselytizing religion.
That's weird. They're all about like not wearing fancy jewelry and they're
having phenomenal success in Africa. I know that they're getting a lot of converts in Africa. The Seventh-day Adventists.
Weird. Oh well, I've only met a couple of Seventh-day Adventists, but they were nice people. If that's any judgment of their doctrine, then whatever. But do you know what the least diverse was? This may not shock you. If you can think of any denomination.
Catholics.
And who else? You're basically right.
Mormons.
No, wow, that's an excellent guess. But no, the least diverse was the National Baptist Convention.
Okay.
Might have guessed. And the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America and the Lutheran Church. And Lutheran, basically just Lutherans. So, also views of climate change. This is mostly about Catholics. So before Pope Francis' encyclical on the environment was published in June, where he said climate change is a real thing, U.S. Catholics' views of climate change mirrored those of Americans overall, including major partisan divisions. But it went down, or it changed towards climate change as a real thing fairly considerably. Whenever he put that out. So that's good.
Okay, that makes sense. Your representative of God says climate change is a real thing. I would expect to see some shift there.
So now 6 in 10 Catholic Democrats say that global warming is a real thing. How many?
Really? Only 6 in 10 Democrats?
Isn't that bad? Yeah. Yep. But
after God himself, like through the Pope, says that climate change is a real thing, there's still 4 out of 10 Democrats who are like, but I'm gonna wait and see. I'm pretty skeptical.
And if you think that that's bad, guess how many Catholic Republicans feel that way?
God, I don't know, like 2 in 10.
About a quarter. Yeah, 24%. So instead of 20. Isn't that sad? If you think that God dictates your way of life, you got something else to come. See, this is what I'm talking about. Everybody knows. I have this hypothesis, and I did this as soon as I converted away from religion. I said, I was like, I don't think anybody really believes it, because when I was an apologist, I would take it seriously. I was like, no, it says anything's possible, therefore anything's possible. I'm like, yeah, but you can't like fly. And I'm like, yes, you can. you can. If it says it, it has to be true, right?
Right.
I was a literalist. I believed that it was real. And so whenever so now that I'm out, I'm like, well, if nobody else really seemed to believe it, and it really bugged me. I was like, you don't believe this? And they're like, well, I do, but I'm not going to pray over an amputee. I'm like, why not? And they're like, well, that's ridiculous. Don't be stupid. And I'm like, I'm not being stupid. I'm reading and and saying, yeah,
Right.
But anyway, so same thing here. Like, I think that everybody kind of knows somewhere deep inside that it's bullshit. And they have these.
Right. We brought this up
moments
before.
of
It's why there's no parties at funerals, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, my kid died to carbon monoxide poisoning. Like, that's super tragic. Everyone's sad. But really, if your kid's baptized, he's in heaven now. So that's like dodging a bullet, because he could have gone to hell if he'd lived to adulthood.
Yeah, or you could just go through this shithole for a while. Like if you were like, "Hey, David, listen, you're not gonna be able to hang out, in Colorado anymore, but you get to go hang out and play a LAN party all day. D&D, board games,
Right.
all that stuff that we do."
Like, if you view the way Mormons and a lot of Christians do, if you view this life as a test, like a trial to like get through and pass, and it'd be like being in the testing center at your college and then finding out the test was canceled and going home and having a party. Like, why would you be sad about that if you actually thought that was real?
Yeah, I never understood that. By the way, the missionaries are not missionaries. Mormons stopped by today. They do a lot of bean counting, which is weird.
Because you're being.
And wow,
Wait, is that what?
I didn't even realize.
They're like, how many kids you got? Still 2? Got it. Bean counting done.
Oh my god. No, dude. Okay, no other religion does this, I don't think. And it's creepy. They'll call you occasionally and be like, "Hey, your address still this?" And I'm like, "That's a weird question. Who is this?"
Yeah,
And
they like to keep track of you.
yeah, it was weird. These guys came out today and they're like, "Hey, you still a member?" Or they're like, "We're gonna invite you to this barbecue we're having." And I was like, haven't been for a long time. And they're like, "Oh, really? We got you in here." And I'm like, "That's because I don't know how to get off." And they're like, "Oh, well, was there any problems with it?" And I was like, "No, I'm not like militant. I just don't believe it." And they're like, "Oh, okay." But then I felt the need to like be really nice to him, so I made a bunch of jokes. And we hung out for a while. Invited him to jiu-jitsu.
No, yeah, like if you don't formally resign, like you're still a Mormon in their books. I am
crazy.
We're like, when they say there's 14 million members, they're counting you and I.
No wonder. Yeah, no, thanks anyway though. But they were like, "Well, I mean, if you want to get off the list, you can. You just got to go and call. We'll give you the number
It's
of the
this
bishop."
whole hassle. You have to send a letter, and there's like a 30-day waiting period. And they write you back and say, "This is a matter for your local leaders. Would you like to like?" They do everything in their power to like not let you leave. They legally have to let you leave as soon as they get that letter, but they'll try and drag it out. I think that's why they have so many members, is because it's just like a lot of paperwork to get out.
What a bunch of bullshit. I wonder why they didn't make some more presents on this these 10 facts. But here's one, and this is relevant for the podcast. So in a typical week, about 1 in 5 Americans share their faith online. It feels like more than that, doesn't it?
I know, my newsfeed begs to differ on that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Do you engage these, or what's your policy?
Here's my policy. I won't go on other people's pages and just like correct them on their comments. Like if someone posts something, but I will post things on my page. Like I'll have something innocuous, like gay marriage is okay and here's why. And then if people bring their religious bullshit there, I will engage it and I'll shut it down. But I won't go on other people's web pages and like bring my shit to them.
Damn, I've done that a couple times. Just if it's something really bad, like people are like, all lives matter. And I'm like, it's not the point. Yes, of course all lives matter.
Stop equivocating, you asshole.
I know. If you say Black Lives Matter, it's not saying that no other lives matter. They're just saying they matter because right now it seems like they're getting shit on. And so, you're just shut the fuck up. Like it's,
right.
so
it's like you're not holding up signs that say, protect the pigeons. Pigeons are fine. They're doing okay. They're not going to go endangered. Bald eagles are endangered. We should focus on the things that are being attacked more.
Yeah, I don't. If it's exceptionally inflammatory, I'll post it. If it's about one of my hot topics, there's a few. It's psychology, science, and then like vaccines, those sorts of things. But they tend to come up. People are so
just like, see, the only things that really set you off are statements of fact about reality.
About everything, yeah. I just get upset. Like I don't mind if someone's like, "Hey, praise Jesus, he saved me." I'm not like, "Did he?" I don't write that. But man, I don't have a policy. I need a policy.
You ever post on the ones that are like, Jesus loves you and he died for you? 100 people will not post this, but will you be the one who will?
Occasionally.
If you deny me, I will deny you. 1 repost equals 1 love of Jesus. 1 share equals 300 Jesus loves.
I use humor as a weapon a lot. Like I will post that. There's a little cartoon of a guy that says, he's like, it shows God, up in the heavens and the Golden Gate and all that nonsense. And he's sitting on a computer and he's like, and he's got this guy next to him. And he's like, I was gonna bless you, but he didn't like that, or you didn't share that Facebook post. I'm sorry. It's
humor
absurd.
As a weapon is effective. Did you see that John Oliver's church, like Our Lady of Perpetual Exemption? Has been making them relook at IRS, like the way they deal with churches. Like there is something to be said for good satire. Like since Voltaire and beyond, like it's always been an effective weapon.
Well, and it's almost like vomiting on yourself. Like I don't know if you know about this. Buzzards vomit on themselves or vomit on other people as well, but they vomit on themselves to escape a predator.
Yeah,
and
first frogs will piss themselves when you pick them up.
Yeah, and it's probably why we piss ourselves when we get really scared or shit ourselves. It's to spoil the meat for the predator, and you're more likely to live through the scenario. But humor is almost like that, because if you take someone really seriously and they're joking around, you look like an asshole, and you kind of ruin your whole point. Because then if the other person's like, "Hey, come on," and you're like, "Shut the fuck up," then you instantly lose, even if you're right.
Yep.
So if you master it, then but anyway, number 6, Americans have continued to become more supportive of same-sex marriage. This is not a shock to me.
Yeah,
I've noticed this.
The writing's been on the wall for a while. That's even the Mormons have stopped fighting it officially.
Yeah, and what group do you think is the least supportive? This isn't really. It depends on how you group them, right? Well, let me just. White evangelical Protestants are the least supportive of gay marriage. Yep. Do you know what percent? Let's see how close you are again.
All right, so if on average, I'd say like 50 to 60% of Americans, probably like 57%, like in that area where it's a bare majority, are in favor of gay marriage. I'd say maybe 30% of white evangelicals are.
Ooh, close, nice, 24%. Now, how many do you think, without any religious affiliation, are going to favor allowing gays and lesbians to wed, quote unquote?
Oh, I don't know, like 73, like a clear majority.
82. Nice, yeah.
even more.
It's just weird that there's 18% that say no. I'm like, what do you guys have against it?
There's like the initial squick factor. I think some people are just like, it's gross, and they don't think of it.
That's true. And a lot of unaffiliated moved up. Get this, from 16.1% to 22.8. That doesn't sound like much, but the rest of these statistics moved by like 2 to 3%, right?
Yeah. I mean, technically, the unaffiliated are the fastest growing religion.
This was the fastest, the nuns, which everyone knows, but just to see the graph, like I said, I'll put this link up, but it's you're like, whoa, that's a huge jump, because all the religious people, every religion seemed to go down except for non-Christian faiths, which moved up from 4.7 to 5.9, and unaffiliated soared from 16.1 to 22.8. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so this is pretty fun because you're actually pretty accurate so far.
I spent a lot of time dealing with religion.
Yeah. 7. Americans are divided on the question of whether wedding-related businesses should be allowed to refuse service to same-sex couples. Dude, this is a big one. I don't know, because I see the points of view on both sides, and this is my job, so I know I do this a lot, but I see the points of view on both sides. I see that, like, if you're a private-owned business, you should.
There's like the libertarian freedom factor of like the government can't tell me who to serve, and then there's the Jim Crow laws factor of but sometimes people are shitty, and there needs to be some protection for that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I want to be like, that's fine. If someone's going to be a bigoted fuck, then let them be a bigoted fuck, because we're all.
And I've had this argument with a lot of atheists or non-religious people who take that position of like, you should be allowed, let the market decide, right? Like if you're going to be a bigoted fuck, then just lose the business. Yeah,
but so I see that merit. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, what if you're the only business, and then also
and that's where it falls apart, is if you're in the deep South and everybody won't serve gays, or there's what's the word for doctors who specialize in children? Pediatrician, right? Let's say there's 3. You were right. Yeah, pedophiles. Let's say there's 3 pedophiles. No, let's say there's 3 pediatricians in Oxford, Mississippi, heavily Christian-dominated area, or even not even Oxford. Let's say like bumfuck Mississippi. There's no college there, and population is like Mountain Home, 10,000. Let's say there's 4 pediatricians. They all refuse to service the children of lesbians. Like, your kid has an ear infection, and you have no way to help that because they have the constitutional right to refuse your service. Like, it's a great argument when you're in like LA or New York, but when you're in a small like southern town, this is where it kind of falls apart for me.
Yeah. I just don't know. Like, exactly. It depends on what city we're talking about and how that works. like my gut instinct is make them serve it, but then I'm like, well, then I realize what else that could mean. You know, I don't know, whatever. I don't. I fall on neither side of that, but I definitely lean towards the fact that just fucking serve them, dude. Chill out.
I can't think of any other way.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember being religious and how anti-gay marriage I was. So, I mean, I can understand like serious religious convictions, but we can't just let religious convictions run wild. Anyway, so abortion over the last 2 decades. The right to have an abortion. Should it be legal in most cases or illegal in most cases? Do you think that's moved towards liberal or towards conservative?
So do you think more people think it should be legal now than before?
Yeah.
Man, that's such a divisive one too. I don't even know where I stand on it. I think it's probably gotten more permissive than it was in the past, but it's probably still closer to the 50-50 margin.
You were half right. It's still 55%, and it's stayed pretty much steady over the last 20 years. I think it's the same thing. There's this one argument from potentiality in philosophy that I heard, because we talked about all the different issues, and one of them was, the argument for potentiality. It's like, oh, well, if it can turn into a baby, or if you just left it alone, it could turn into a baby, and then everybody's met someone who was tried to be aborted, and it's like, oh man, if that person wasn't here, it has a lot of impact. But on the other hand, it's like,
if only we'd aborted Hitler, though, right? Your baby might turn out to be the next serial killer.
Yeah. But then you get the women's rights to their own body, and so anyway, the point is, my whole job is to be able to put 2 points of view and try to make them seem equally normal. That's what I do in the therapy room for couples. I'm like, hey, you got this deal here and you got this deal here, and you whatever. Keyed his car for watching a cartoon or something, and that's not okay. But I make it sound even. So take what I say with a grain of salt. But yeah, it's remained steady. I thought it was gonna swing towards liberalism.
Yeah, I didn't know where it was 20 years ago, but I know now it's still pretty evenly split. Like it's a really divisive issue.
Yeah, that's crazy. Frequency of religious service attendance remains a strong predictor of how people will vote in elections. That's number 9. Is that shocking?
Not surprising. Yeah. Even though churches are legally not allowed to support candidates, they do. So I don't really know why that would be a surprise.
Yeah. So it says in the 2014 midterm elections, exit polls showed that those who attended worship services at least weekly voted for Republicans over Democrats for the House of Representatives by 58% to 40% margin, which I thought that was incredibly weird how close that was. Meanwhile, those who never attended services leaned heavily towards Democrats, 62 to 36%.
And you see that in even their party platforms. Like the Republican Party platform had a line like near the beginning that said, we believe God founded the country and we should serve his will, or something along those lines. And the Democratic Party platform didn't have a line like that. So already from the get-go, if you're religious, you probably want to vote for the people who are like, God's the head of our country.
Huh. I mean, they definitely play on that line a lot. Like when they asked Donald Trump what his favorite Bible verse was, to try to why would that matter unless it had something to do with being a Republican, right?
And when he interviewed Palin, Palin was like, "What? They wouldn't ask Hillary Clinton what her favorite Bible verse was?" And he's like, "Yeah, what the hell?" But Hillary Clinton isn't in the party that Trump's God is like, something we should have. If you're secular, of course they're not going to ask you what your favorite Bible verse is because you're not waving the Bible around.
Dude, I forgot to tell you. So I just signed up my kid to Cub Scouts, and here's the thing. Religious discrimination is going to happen, right? And I know that a big part of it is what they're doing. On the other hand, he's not, Elijah's just not big on going outside and stuff. And I'm just not enough of a reinforcer to help that. So he needs friends that go outside too. Could teach him bushcraft and stuff. Yeah, like camping. And he's just kind of like, he's like, and so I was like, oh man, what's the best way to do that? Well, religious discrimination is going to happen against me. So, but when I got in there, we actually aren't allowed to be in there. It said that.
The atheists aren't allowed in this. I don't know about Cub Scouts, but Boy Scouts won't allow atheists.
Yeah. It's Boy Scouts America is the father company of Cub Scouts.
Yeah. So they just had these great, everyone's been giving them like blowjobs over their decision to let gay scout leaders back in. And I'm like, yeah, but they still won't let atheists in. So don't just rush to sign your kids up just yet. You have to believe in a higher power to be part of their club.
It's called, let me
And full disclosure, I'm an Eagle Scout, but I technically shouldn't be because I don't believe in God. I guess I did when I got the merit badges or whatever.
Yeah. The Scout Oath is on my honor. I will do my best to do my duty to God
and my country, to protect other people at all times, to keep myself morally strong, physically, morally chaste, physically strong, and something. It's gone.
Yeah. Well, but the God part I saw in there, and I thought, no, it's no big deal. But they said the Boy Scouts. Here's what it said. Yeah, here it is. This is the part I read, and I just sat there looking at it, and I started feeling like an imposter. I was looking around, and I was like, what? It said the Boy Scouts of America maintains that no member, get this, can grow into the best kind of citizen without recognizing an obligation to God. Mm-hmm. In the first part of the Scout Oath or promise, the member declares, on my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law. The recognition of God as the ruling and leading power in the universe and the grateful acknowledgement of his favors and blessings are necessary to be the best type of citizenship, or to the best type of citizenship, and are wholesome precepts in the education of the growing members. It says that you can't, to be the best kind of person you can be, you have to have God, which is demonstrably and statistically false. But beyond that, just offensive.
Yeah, no, the Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, clean, brave, and reverent is one of the things you have to say if you're a Scout. Like reverent, that's like a weird. That's right. Reverent towards what? But yeah, it's when you told me today that you had to wait to do the podcast until your kids got home from Scouts, I was like, ooh, they're Scouts? That raised a red flag for me, because I'm like, they're not technically supposed to be in there because they are not acknowledging super God.
Yeah, I mean, but if I was outed everywhere, I mean, I think I would have been kicked out of a lot of things by now. And so I'm like, I'm just going to live under the radar, in a lot of places, bring it up where it's relevant and not where it's not. I just don't know. Like, it's $10 to get in, so it's nothing. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just, it's $2 a month or something. So we're trying it out is all I'm saying. We've got a membership till December, and we're going camping next weekend anyway. So it's, just makes sense. I don't know. I didn't know about that is all I'm saying until I got in and we signed up and already paid, but.
Yeah, I mean, what can I tell you? I'm a hypocrite too. I've got the Eagle Scout badge in my little box of mementos, but they fucking would kick me out if they knew.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Huh.
Yeah, okay. I'm not a fan.
Number 10 is Christians continue to make up an overwhelming majority of members of Congress. What percentage do you think it is?
Oh, God, it's going to be like 90. At least
92%.
Like 90. I was going to say, like, I can't even imagine. I could probably name, like, a Jewish congressman or maybe a Muslim, but I think there's one openly atheist person in Congress.
It says only one member of Congress, Representative Kirsten Sinema from Democrat from Arizona, or 0.2% of that body claims no religious affiliation. 7%
which is not a representative statistic compared to the overall.
No, 71% of the general public
are Christian.
Yeah. So
and 92% are Christian in Congress. So there's still like a disparity there in politics.
Yeah.
You know where else we see that disparity is in prison.
Is where? Oh, yeah.
Lots more Christians in prison than the overall statistics would make you believe.
That's crazy, man. I don't know. A lot of this was not antithetical, just different than I thought.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah. And what's funny is I had a family member, one of my conservative family members, popped on and said something, and I said, boop, so-and-so has commented on your publication. I was like, oh, no. But it wasn't controversial. It's just this idea that like Protestants aren't Baptists, which was the first I'd ever heard. Or Baptists aren't Protestants, which was the first I'd ever heard of that. So
yeah,
pretty strange.
So yes, I have a quick little rant of my own. It's about Josh Duggar, but it's not what you're expecting. I'm not going to pile on the what a hypocrite, he defends marriage and is cheating on his wife. That's not what's interesting me about that, because that's pretty obvious, right? Like that's clearly a problem. It's clearly a disconnect. What I'm interested in is the reaction that Christians have had to him, because whenever he gets exposed, there's this knee-jerk reaction to either defend him or to point the finger somewhere else. And as an example, my brother put up a Facebook post that says, it's Josh Duggar, and it says, I molested 4 of my sisters and cheated on my wife, but it's the queers who are ruining the sanctity of marriage. Like, haha, like that's the obvious disconnect that we feel when we look at Josh Duggar. But what was interesting is my aunt, who's kind of a liberal Mormon, like she's not really that conservative or fundamental. Here's what she says. She says, my first thought when I read this was the pain his wife and parents were feeling. Okay, fair. Then she says, it would be nice if we lived in a world where commitment and loyalty were valued again, where movies, books, television, and the internet touted fidelity and integrity instead of casual sex and hookups. Even in ridicule like this, where there is such joy in mocking his hypocrisy, the ones who most hurt are those who have already been devastated by his actions. So sad. Okay, so I saw this, and I really had a kind of a gut reaction to this, where you're pointing to pop culture as the reason why these things are happening. Like, we're saying that we don't value, she's saying, if only we lived in a world where commitment and loyalty were valued in books, movies, and television. And I thought to myself, and here's my comment, I said, what are you talking about? Like, what TV, movies, and books are you referencing? Like, everything I've ever seen, from Breaking Bad to Game of Thrones to like every pop culture movie and television show, Community, the person who's cheating on their spouse is depicted as a villain, right? Like, you never see that as like a heroic trait to be praised. And yet she's pointing to pop culture as saying like, he cheated on his wife because of this world that we're living in. And I'm like, no, even secularists think cheating on your spouse is wrong. And what they're doing is they're equivocating having sex before marriage with cheating on your spouse. And to me, those are two separate issues. I don't see a moral problem with two consenting adults who aren't in committed relationships having sex with each other, but I do see a moral problem with someone in a committed relationship breaking the trust of their partner.
Oh, right. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Equivocation. Yeah.
So I just thought that was, and then made me wonder, like, why are people so quick to like spin this away? Because to me, what's at the core of this is a culture that fetishizes purity. It's, again, these Puritans are fucking us up. It's this culture that says sex is absolutely wrong. Do not masturbate or you'll go blind and turn gay and grow hair on your palms. Like, that's not a very healthy way to raise kids. And then you would expect to see unhealthy behavior like diddling your sister or, you know, cheating on your wife on a web page or, you know, priests who are pedophiles. We would expect that to happen if you are demonizing sex and making this kind of natural instinct into an unnatural perversion, the way you present it, right? Like, sex is a horrible, filthy act that you should reserve for somebody you love. Like, that's an intrinsically weird message. And so I don't know why they're so quick to point the finger at pop culture when it's so much more obviously the fault of this quiverful movement ideology of purity.
Mm-hmm. I guess I see it as like a, I see your point of view, and I think that's probably a factor in it. I guess I see it as a, there's an interesting thing about people who do like these, you know, moral monstrosities like this, and we're not sure. This is what's crazy. Like, there seems to be a demonstrable difference between what we call like a psychopath or someone who, you know, uses others for their own happiness. But we don't know if that's just on a spectrum and these just happen to be the douchiest of people and everybody falls down, you know, closer and closer on the scale, in which case there's no specific kind of person that's a psychopath or someone who is, you know, a moral monster like this or commits moral monstrosities. But we do know that some people fall along the lines of doing those things because of over time they take a small step and then another small step and another small step. It's not that they were just born that way and they've been torturing cats, which, you know, these people do exist, you know, like Jeffrey Dahmer or these other sort of psychopaths. Or this most recent WDBJ shooting. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, at least I've seen a lot of reactions on Facebook of, well, what flag are we gonna ban now that a gay black person has shot some people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's, I don't know. Well, we could say that for another episode, but yeah, so there are people who, you know, are this kind of catalyst theory where, you know, they're born and then they because of these certain, you know, early influences like legitimization of violence and these other things, slowly, you know, they're just a different quality of person. But then there's people who commit similar monstrosities, but it's because of a bunch of small steps in that direction in which they weren't socially punished, you know, to fall back in line. And it's like this Dr. Fatah guy, or I think that's how I'm pronouncing it, Fatah. I don't know if you heard about this guy. He just got busted about a month ago for prescribing cancer treatments to people who didn't have cancer, to people who were already cured of cancer. He recommended longer chemotherapy, etc. Like, there's a whole mess of him overprescribing chemotherapy to these people, whether, you know, oh man, even when they were going bankrupt and like, I can't afford this treatment. He's like, no, you need to stay in hospice for a little bit longer, even though all the medical evidence showed that wasn't the case. And people died from these chemo treatments, and these things happen. And, you know, someone asked me, is this an example of one of these psychopaths? And I thought, I don't know this guy. I don't think that's the case. There's no indication that he grew up like that, but instead was this slow, these tiny little bumps to the side. He probably, kind of a case that was 95% sure. He said, okay, it's 100% sure. And then over time, it's like 90% sure. And okay, 100% sure. And over time, it's like pretty soon he's like, yeah, I think that's kind of how that moves. Now, so I think the same thing here. Like if we aren't checked, if we're in a position where, we're not checked and we aren't taking other people's, as people, well, there's the question again. See, I just don't. I don't know in these situations. I need to do more research because right now we're just not sure. We don't get enough people that do things like this often enough that we can ask them these questions, and make a standardized answer.
Although it seems like the news is replete with it. Like we're always hearing about pastors having affairs or who was that mega church at the New Life Church a few years ago who was like doing blow with gay hookers, homosexuality. Like it seems like it's coming to light more and more. And again, it's not so much the crime or the perpetrator that interests me. It's the Christian reaction to immediately leap to its defense or point the blame away from it. It's like they on some level feel like they on some level know that their own ideology, their own way of raising these kids is helping to create this problem, and they want to divert the blame to something else, like be it movies or people are saying that it's okay to sleep with other people who aren't your wife. Like this is what the problem is. I heard a song on the radio about cheating on your girlfriend. Like they're looking for any other scapegoat so that we don't have to turn the analysis inward and say maybe what we're doing is kind of fucking up our kids.
Well, but that presumes that sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Because I started thinking about what you were saying, and then I just lost it. But put a little bookmark in my brain. But yeah, okay. Well, good point. That's a good point.
We'll play it, sir.
Hold on. You were talking about what was your main point? I'm sorry.
Just that more interesting to me is the Christian reaction of trying to divert the criticism or the analysis away from their own theology and towards pop culture. Like that's just an interesting observation I've had whenever these things happen.
I remember what it was. That's presuming that a lot of people have this assumption about human nature, but it's that we are driven by cognitive dissonance, and we are, but there's this interesting thing that humans can do. It's compartmentalization, and there's a theory as to how people can do these things and have, like this guy doing, blow with gay hookers and then also campaigning against homosexual rights. We can compartmentalize like our behaviors and just not allow those two things to rub, by like almost like feeling, almost like just completely turning off that engine just so we can behave in a way that is
your ire.
Yeah, that's pushing into us. And and there's no such thing, I don't believe there's a lot of evidence to show that there's no such thing as multiple personality disorder or now dissociative identity disorder. But the fundamental idea does sit there where you're like, sometimes you have to bring those two into line. You're like, right. Dude, you're a good father. What are you doing? And they're like, I'm hanging out with my friends. You're like, but your two kids are at home asleep and now they're crying and they're wet, and they need to be fed.
It's the same as you have Christian scientists, right? Like you understand the human genome, like the guy who like took the lead on the Human Genome Project is a Christian. So on some level, you can have like these two opposing ideas and they don't come into conflict.
Yeah, and when we do this a lot, so there's a theory that that's how some of these people pull out some of these crazy acts, these antisocial acts, or these moral monstrosities. So whatever the case, I think a big part of that is to do values work, like ACT type stuff. Although on the other hand, you could just send them to this camp or whatever he's going to.
Building houses.
Yeah, fucking A, man. But.
All right, so we're coming up on time. Any feedback you want to hit before we call it a day?
Dude, I didn't even check. I'm a bad person. Hold on, let me check right now.
Some people said some shit, and
they usually, people say nice stuff all the time, and then I just go, "Oh, that's so nice," and then I don't say it on air, and I feel bad. Just a lot of positive feedback. I really love doing this podcast because of that. But let me see if anyone commented recently. One sec. It is taking years to load. Hope that's okay. Is it okay?
That's fine. This is good radio.
All right. Well, I guess not because it doesn't seem to be loading.
Cool. Well, thank you for your feedback. We do appreciate it, even if we're not really acknowledging it. But it's
so bad.
It is fun to read, and this is our new podcast, so it's fun to watch it grow and try and catch up to our other one.
Definitely. And we do get a lot of, for some reason, YouTube video or watchers on this one as opposed to other ones, which is pretty strange. But we appreciate it. And yeah, sorry I couldn't get to the feedback. I should have thought about that beforehand, but we just came off our 100th episode of our other podcast. I was totally distracted. But anyway, we'll talk to you guys next week. And thanks for tuning in. David, do you have a cool sign off?
Carpe Liam.
Carpe Liam.